So, I know I said nobody's.
This is my wife, Kelly.
Oh, hello. Nice to see you, dear. Oh, see, it's more this time. Last time they gave it up here. If I had a staff, they'd take it away. I'll have one gin and tonic before my annual meeting.
Before you start your marathon here.
Do you have your drink yet?
Yeah, man. I'm good to go.
You got it? You good? All right.
Welcome to the Legacy Angel Network Venture Lounge, where nothing ventured is nothing changed. For Matt Helmenthaler, press 1. For member services, press 2. For real raw startup stories, press 3. For all other questions or concerns, please wait on the line in our
Good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Helmenthaler, and you're listening to Venture Lounge, after-hour conversations with founders and investors. These are the stories, insights, and conversations that you aren't going to find on the company website. Because the real lessons you learn in the startup world, the risks you take as an entrepreneur, the highs and the lows, the moments in your journey when no one else believes in you right before you break through. Those are the moments that you just have to hear for yourself. So grab a drink and listen in to the men and women who are changing the world. Welcome to the Venture Lounge.
Welcome to Legacy Angel Network. We are really a local syndicate of people who care about Brevard County, care about what happens to Brevard County, the future of Brevard County, and we believe that we can find startups and other growth companies that need help, that need funding, and surround them with all the support that they need to get from here to here. And what we're doing for Brevard, we're doing with Brevard. And so we're really excited about where Legacy Angel Network is going. And we're really just glad that everybody's here and hope that you guys just have a wonderful time tonight. If you are interested in membership or anything, you can go and click the QR code. But that's not why we're here tonight. Why we're here tonight is to do this live podcast with Miss Lynda Weatherman. Please give it up for her.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Lynda.
And the way the format's going to go, we're going to start the podcast, and we're going to talk and we're going to chit chat. If you guys have seen our podcast, they're very conversational. We're hoping that she'll slip up and say the F word. I'm just kidding. No. I'm just.
That would be great, though.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. No, but so we're going to do that. We're going to do the podcast. We'll have a little intermission to give everyone a break, let you refill your drinks, go use the restroom, come back. And then when we come back from intermission, we'll have a quick little closing, and then we're going to open up to the audience and let you guys ask Lynda questions. And then the rest of the evening will be goofing off together, which is our favorite thing to do when we all gather. So
no doubt.
Yeah. Anyway, here we are.
Lynda, let's start with a really serious question. So, like a former, what's up?
How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
You look nice tonight.
Thanks. You too.
Yeah.
Just start conversation.
Did you do the tattoo on the knee just for this evening?
No, I've had it for a while.
Okay.
I usually wear, pleated pants or something.
Yeah. It looks great.
Thanks, man. Hey, Lynda, let's start with the serious question. So, sure. Former Air Force intelligence officer, like this week in front of Congress, was talking about UFO crash sites and how would aliens impact the Space Coast economy?
Okay, well let me hang on. I can't really comment on that, but no, it's above my pay grade. But I will tell you this, if this is like just my personal opinion on this, and some will be EDC generated, but what I think it's done, if I could, is they talk about, I found, in not looking at it, but reading about it, that a lot of Air Force pilots felt inhibited to share that with the Air Force because it would mitigate maybe their chances of promotion and stuff like that. So at minimum, as we have a discussion about UFOs, or the new term that we call them, we should at least give the support as a Department of Defense edict, as an Air Force edict, to give the the pilots the comfort that if you see something, report it. Because if this is what we're seeing now, can you imagine what's being done? And it could be a water balloon, or what do you call it? The Chinese did.
The weather balloon?
I don't know. I lived in China. I don't know what's in that water. But get a tetanus shot after, I can guarantee you that. But this is back in China. I lived there. But what I'm saying is that's what I took out of it, is that we need to give the comfort to our air pilots in the Air Force, Marines, Navy, that if they see something that they consider an anomaly, they should feel comfortable to report that and not feel like it's going to be an impact on their career.
Yeah, unidentified aerial phenomena. I think
That's right,
the new term.
exactly.
Yeah.
I know that your initial question was kind of jokey, but she just delivered.
She really did.
That was phenomenal.
Thank
That
you.
was really, really good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
had no opinion on that.
Well,
I don't. This.
I'm always thinking.
I love, you know
there
what?
you go.
If everyone could
Yeah.
please turn off your cell
His
phone.
the pizza's here.
Extremely-
Everyone, the pizza's
It's
here.
extremely rude.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey,
Okay.
yeah. I can't save you there, man.
I have one more. Thanks.
Lynda, tell us
With
about.
that.
So are you from the area? Did you grow up here?
Yeah, I'm a native Floridian. I was born in Tampa, and my mother, I say my family's a story of Tampa. It's the history of Tampa. My father was a young airman. My mother was the child of immigrants from Ybor City,
Wow.
and they met. And one thing about being in the service, as a non-commissioned officer, nothing fancy, is that you get to see the world as a young person. So while I didn't really technically grow up in Florida, I am a Floridian. I've had this job for almost, I don't know how to say it, but 28 years. And it changes how you approach economic development. A lot of my peers in my business, you stay 3 or 4 years, and then you move on to a bigger market. And I don't know if that's the best to sustain a good economic development program. It might not help your career because you move on to bigger markets. So I stayed in this market, but I believed in this market, and I believed what its promise was in 1994, 95.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's not hype. It's not hype. I can give you
it's-
stories
no.
behind it. And it wasn't easy here. It's not easy, let me tell you. When you stay at a place a long time, you're never a prophet. You're never a prophet in your own land.
Right.
You're kind of used to it. So I'm very sensitive to the EDC always being relevant. And every 3 years, you'll see us do something different and not traditional economic development. And it's always tactic driven. If you, like, for example, in my business, in economic development, I challenge you, find an economic development strategy. I don't care where you look, Wichita, I don't care, Wichita, Illinois, Georgia. They always say this: we need jobs. Where was I in my career? Oh, thanks. I paid you to do that. You want to diversify, enhance the tax base. They never tell you how to do it. And tactics beat strategy every time in business and in economic development.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, thank you.
So in 1994 when you kind of made this transition and taking over the EDC and getting things rolling, what motivated you to go ahead and because it was a very, in my opinion, it was a very entrepreneurial task. And
Yeah.
you were doing something that I think this area has desperately needed for many years. I grew up here.
Yeah.
And to see what you guys have done over the years, it has been very tactful.
Yeah.
You've been very intentional. But kind of going back a little bit, kind of what motivated you to get into this line of thing where you're going to bring in a bunch of companies, create a bunch of
Yeah.
jobs? Where'd that passion kind of come from?
It was certainly aspirational, but it was very naive. I never thought it would be this hard and this long, okay? Because I didn't understand the business. And I'm like, well, I love space and aerospace. As an economic development practitioner, it's like if I work in the blowfish capital of the world, I'm going to embrace that and do everything I can. And so I got to learn about this and understood the impediments to getting into space. Why can't we have more rocket launches? And what I wanted to do, and I said this years ago, and again, talk is cheap in my business, I said this: well, we're doing 3 or 4 launches a year. Why can't we bring the manufacturing here? Why can't we be the Detroit, not the SeaTac, which we were SeaTac. We were doing, and it was aspirational, but it was terribly, terribly stupid. I mean, it was not stupid. It was naive. I underestimated just what a dogfight it would be, and locally, as well as domestically and internationally. We finally hit our stride, but it's taken a long time. But it was a cross between having the aspiration, having the plan. And I'll tell you the story where I believe the paradigm shift occurred, because it's really a wonderful story, I think, for our community to embrace, and also in my field of economic development. And I'll share that with you in a minute. But what can we do? And it was an ability for us to have a proactive approach. And we're a small EDC, okay? I have a budget a little over $1 million. My competition isn't companies my size. It's not EDOs my size. My competition is Charlotte, Savannah, Austin, every major company, aerospace industry you could talk about. And we had a small company, so I couldn't go to my board and go, well, guess what? Or Orlando, well, guess what? They beat us because they had more money than I. Well, they're like, okay, fine, you're gone. They went through 5 directors in 6 years before I got that job. This is a tough place to be in economic development in many aspects too. It's long and narrow. There's not a common center, which I hope that the young people in this county start embracing the individualness of our county, but also collective feeling. That's why we're promoting branding. We'll talk about that later. So to answer your question, which I forgot what it was already. I tell people this, forgive me, I can be a little cheeky here, can I?
No,
okay.
Please.
I tend to tell stories, and I saw the movie Lincoln, okay? And I watched it, and I love history. I was a history teacher years ago, European history. And every time you ask that guy a question in the movie, he tells a story. Mm-hmm. And I go, God, that's so annoying. And I go, oh, that's what I do. You ask Lincoln a story, and it goes on some story. So anyway, forgive me to go on to a story, but it's the anecdotes I think that brings the human factors into it. So I didn't realize how long it would be, but the factors were having a good economy with sort of the industrial base we had and a growing industry. But go ahead.
No, that's awesome, Lynda. And you mentioned, initially you kind of had maybe what you'd consider now a naive perspective on the area and what would work. But what's your perspective now as far as a place to live, work, the culture here? What differentiates the Space Coast from other parts of Florida? 2
things, I think. Number one, and again, in economic development, you don't want to be hyperbolic. I could say all the great things in the world, unless I can deliver, it means nothing. And in fact, I could be hyperbolic and not deliver, and I can get my face punched in, okay? Because you're just a scamster. So I'm very careful what I say in regards to honoring what could be done. But I will tell you, what's happening here is not happening, I don't believe, anywhere in the world. We are, I can't take credit for this. Someone said this, shared this with me once. And I didn't read the book. I was listening to the book on, it was on history of England, and they were talking about how they started the mercantile world of London in 1640, and they had, think about this, who does this sound like? And one shipping company would compete for another shipping company, and one gun company would put money into it like a venture capitalist, because they think they would get there quicker and back, and they maybe not, and come back at all, and how they had this, what does that sound like? That's us. We're London in 1640. That's what's happening here, and we have not even begun, and again, I'm not a space person, okay, I'm an economist by training, so what I'm saying, it may sound very kind of naive, but I don't believe, from just my innocent perspective, we're sending up satellite and communications. What happens when we really monetize space? Mm-hmm. When we find out beyond our understanding that we can make rare earth minerals in space because we can't find them on the world now. We've really cracked that nut.
Yep.
Okay. And the fact that costs have gone down, that's why you see launches going up. And we were, not that long ago, I see the crowd out here, you guys were probably playing with Care Bears, but we had
Especially
3 or 4.
Connor.
Yeah, right.
That's me.
Yep.
And I don't know what the boys' equivalent to a Care Bear is, so I say that. Maybe Little Ponies? You play with Little Ponies, maybe?
Right. No Barbie.
That's
no, that's
right.
a
You
thing.
like your friend. Oh, Mommy, leave me alone. I'm coming, the Little Pony hair. I don't know why that's funny. I get silly. Excuse me. Oh. Somebody once told me about myself, and I don't think I've ever shared this publicly. They go, you know what it is with you? And when I make a presentation, it could be anything. It could be a punch in the face. It could be embracing. It could be lovely. It could be complimentary. And I go, yeah. The guy goes, you take what you do seriously. You just don't take yourself. So if I get a little cheeky, forgive me for doing that.
Get cheeky.
Now, where were we? We were talking about Care Bears.
Get cheeky with it.
Okay. Anyway, so what was happening not that long ago? We had maybe 3 or 4 launches, including manned and unmanned. Yep. And look where we are today, and we haven't begun. There's inherent challenges with that as well, and we could talk about that too when we talk about the community challenges. So what's happening here, and in economic development, you always talk about, remember the study that you pay all this money for to get done, and they tell you what to do? They also tell you to diversify. They never tell you how. That's why I have never hired an outside party, because I'm a cheapskate. And if I hire somebody to tell me how to do a strategy for economic development, that would be malfeasance. We don't have that much money. I think I've explained that our competition has a lot more money than we do. That doesn't matter. We still have to be successful. So we do our own strategy and mostly tactics. But when you talk about diversification, it always is aspirational in communities. It never happens. What's happening here is not a complete diversification from one industry to another. It's from within an industry. And even that, you can't see that. And so not too long ago, we were a launch site, okay? And look what's happened here. I'm telling you, in your Care Bear days, even sooner. What was it in junior high? You probably were high schoolers. Well, I want to ask about you in junior high. Well, never
was 5 years ago.
Yeah. Hang on. One more minute. 5 years ago. I don't know what was 5 years ago. What was going on?
I don't even
Matt,
know.
5 years ago.
I don't know.
I rotated my tires.
It's a blur.
That's what we did.
It's a blur.
Listen, last time I rotated my tires, we were. So what I'm saying, in 5 years ago, we went from not that many launches because and again, I'm not an expert, the cost of launch went down. It's opened up the world. I told you how we haven't begun to even monetize space. It's just on Friday, what do we announce? Amazon's Project Kuiper. Doing a constellation, along with OneWeb and other things. That's coming out. We're a bus terminal. It's good. We weren't a bus terminal. We had like 2 buses maybe going up. Yep. And once we really understand, that's communication. When we understand to manufacturing space, then you're really going to see it going on. Yep. That doesn't mean other areas aren't going to be open for manufacturing, for launch activity. But we're the site. We have it here, we have the infrastructure, and we'll continue to compete for it, but we can never, ever take it for granted that we're not the only ones that want this.
What was it that, because you guys have, I can't even you can quantify it, I'm sure, probably better, of course better than I can, but you guys have brought so many companies, major corporations, really, here to Brevard County. A, how did you do that? B, what was it that sold those companies on coming here to Brevard?
First of all, and a company relocate, and the EDC does more than that, but that's the one that sort of we are recognized for, and what most EDCs do only. Each company has different factors for relocation. Usually it's the cost of doing business, access to market, availability of workforce, cost of a present value, 20-year spreadsheet, how much it costs over time. So each one, it might be the same, but it's that. And it's a dogfight. It is a dogfight. Incentives play a role. And this state has not provided any incentives. It's a political decision they make. That's what they want. That's what we're going to do. So our competition is now Texas, okay? Texas is putting a lot of money into that. If you're listening, this means I'm doing a dollar sign like the Italians. Anyway, but that means that's our competition. So incentive don't drive a project, incentive closes a deal. So now the burden on us is even more. But let me tell you where I believe, and I was talking to somebody today, it's just serendipity, about the paradigm shift. If I can have a minute to talk about where I think we went from being a launch provider to showing the world and corporate America that we could take on launch vehicle assembly.
Of course.
And in economic development, this is very unheard of. So it's your world, it's a little esoteric world, so bear with me as I go on to the Abraham Lincoln story of how we paradigm shift. Back a few years ago, and I would tell you, it was like 5 years ago. You were in junior high, you said? You were in high school? Okay. This is, maybe you're in Pampers now, I don't know, but this was, forgive me, it was when prior to the recession, it was 2006. And I'm guessing at the time, because things tend to melt together. It's been a long day. What happened was, and if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of tell the story.
No, keep going.
Okay.
Girl. You're good.
One of my greatest strengths is I know what I don't know, okay? I know my weaknesses. And what I didn't know is I didn't know space, okay? I'm an economic practitioner. What we do is we exploit the economic opportunities that we see. So I hired these 2 people, and we should put the statute to them, and I'll go into it later. But I hired these 2 people that we call the graybeards. Not you. Oh, by the way, the graybeards I work with don't look as good as this graybeard. I'm like, what? It's like, you're not the graybeards I was working with. But anyway, and that's a term, metaphorical term we talk. And there are people that were in the space. One thing about the space industry is I've only seen it 2 other industries, automotive and space. It is in their DNA. It's not, maybe there's other industries, but it's who they are. They started as young people. It's just part of them. I hired these 2 people in, and I was telling them, this is early days. This is when we just knew 10,000 jobs will be lost. And as I told people, it was going to be 10,001 job that was going to be lost if we don't figure this out. And that one job I was very concerned about. So I brought these 2 people who knew space, Lee Solid and Marshall Hurd. And they knew him, I just knew him through time. Oh, they're retired. And I told them, I said, help me understand what's happening next in space. I know they're shutting down. I mean, pretend like you're talking to your grandma. Pretend like you're shutting down, we know we're shutting down the shuttle. What's next? Is it like Apollo where there's nothing next for the next 20 years? Is there something else? Because remember, I'm trying to exploit the next opportunity. And they start talking to me like space people. And the trajectory, and they talk stop span and this. And I'm thinking, did I throw away those bananas before I left house today? I mean, they weren't telling me anything I knew. How long do they keep dry clean before they throw it away? I'm just like, because they're not because they're space people. I'm listening through the prism of an exploiter, economic development. What is the project and how am I going to get it? And then they said this in their innocence. They said, after they were talking about the crew exploration vehicle, okay? The next thing that will be on for. But they were talking about the science. And then they go, just almost, I'm thinking, I need cat food. So typical middle-aged single woman, cat food, bananas, and dry cleaning. Anyway, and I go, and they go, they haven't picked a place yet. And they almost like said it like, and I'm like, whoa, what did you just say? They said, well, no, because it was Lockheed Martin and Boeing. We're going to compete for this. I said, they haven't like cited a place. Because usually what happens is the company says, I'm making these new glasses that can hold everything cold longer than most glasses. We need to manufacture this, and we're going to go here, okay? An economic development practice never even knows that happens. It happens every day in this state, okay? But they talked about not knowing where it was. In economic development, what we do is we respond to the request. We are an ABC company. We created this glass. We think we're going to keep it at our site, or we're going to look at a greenfield site, and we kind of need to be in the southeast. Luckily, if it's that specific, what can you do, okay? That's how EDCs operate. They have for 60 years. It's never changed. So when these two gentlemen told me that they haven't picked a site, I go, let's go after it. Okay, so what we did is we turned economic development on its head. We were asking the question of these two companies, and before that we were on a losing streak, okay? We just lost to Delta Fort. We were on a losing streak. That's why I think we got it, because I think people underestimate it. That the other states were going, sucker, you're not gonna get this one like you haven't before. And we tried, they break my heart. It's my big, it's like we were talking earlier, it's like sports. You don't remember the wins, you remember the losses, right? Yeah. Okay, so I told these two fellows, I said, listen, are you telling me that that NASA was going to contract with these companies? Whoever wins haven't picked a site? Because I kind of assumed they'd do where they are. I don't know where they would do it. They haven't said anything. So what I told them is you got to get in front of these companies. That might be an F word I should have used, but I didn't use it. They're gentlemen, and they would probably have been offended. You get in front of these companies. And these two guys had such gravitas, they were able to get in front of companies. I won't tell the company, but I'll tell you, one of the gentlemen, Lead Solid, was giving 15 minutes in front of one company, and he was given an hour and a half, because here's what I told him. You tell them this. They got to compete, they got to win this contract, and the only elasticity in cost is site of location. I don't know if they believed it, but I believed it. In other words, everything's going to be the same. Come to us. We're the cheapest place to do business. We have 3 generations deep of people working in mil specs and working in the space industry, and we will work with you to get a state of Florida incentive to locate here. We got it. First time in the 50 years of history of space, in this state, we brought assembly a launch vehicle, and that's Orion, and that's what's taking off now. Okay, awesome. That was a story that we needed to tell the community, that we're not Apollo, that there is a second act. So I think mentally to the community, maybe not, just to me, was, okay, we got through that. The second one, I believe, was when Embraer, third largest manufacturer in the world, commercial aircraft manufacturer, not defense, international, decided to come in Melbourne, Florida in 2008 during the height of the recession. I called it our mini little investment. And that started the change too for aerospace companies coming into the area. So it takes those to sort of crack the nut and get the inertia going. So what happened with the question that you asked, Connor, earlier was, where was it? I think that was the beginning. It showed to industrial America, particular aerospace, space America, that we can take on assembly work, and we are winners too. And then also congruent with the cost of space going down, the need for satellites, the needs for launch vehicles, and the supply chain that we tied to it that we haven't begun to work with now. We're still working now.
So that's an interesting thought, Lynda. I mean,
Mrs. Lincoln. That's right. If you just shoot, then you don't know what I'm talking about. So, yeah.
but you mentioned kind of like a perception thing that.
Sorry. One other thing.
Yeah,
So you
go ahead.
talk about what's going on in this, what's going on here as how we tell the world that this is London 1640. Here's the other thing too, and I meant to address that. Forgive me. What's unique about this place is the scalability, because we have the intellectual infrastructure of a major urban area. Yet we're still a small town. So when I talk to young people, because what's happening now is not only do you have to convince a company, guess what? You have to convince this company's employees to locate here. I'm talking to you in the room. You're the example of the people we're trying to convince that you want to come here. Now, you guys, I think you all need a spanking, but that's me. I'm another generation. I've moved on. I've evolved. I guess you can call the shots. I don't know, not me. I drove my Pinto to find a job in, Hoboken, Georgia to find a job. But you know what? Because you deserve it, because you earn it, because people need your skills and expertise. Not being a cheek again. So here's what I tell these bigger companies, because they're saying, why? Our people want to go to Austin. They want to go to Nashville. They want to go to Charlotte. All these companies, these communities that are a pesto, that are very intriguing. Because remember, these young people with these skills, the skills that you have in this room, they desperately want. They can go to places in the world too. And I tell them this. Number one, I can't say what I don't believe. Okay, I'm not that way, and I believe this, and I say this. Come here. We have the intellectual infrastructure of a major urban area. And this is what sets you apart. We're scalable. You can have, Matt, you're having an impact, okay, in this community. And you will. Connor, you will too. Bigger urban areas, you would have to fight for that recognition, for that relevancy. You can help us become the community you want to be in 50 years from now. You can do it. It's with your church. You could do it on your local politics. You could do it with your friends that do neighborhood up or whatever, because you're beyond me and what's going on. You want to make this place better, you can impact this community. You can't do it in Austin, no offense.
Right.
It's too big, no offense. You can't do it in Nashville, but you can do it here if you want to do. And I believe that the combination of these, as much as I want to spank you, I also want to honor you too, because I've never seen a group that wanted to have an impact on the community in a good, wonderful way. So God bless us for having you here. But it's like, we can do it here. You can, if you want to get involved in local politics. Matt, you did that with the young professionals and things like that. Get involved in your young professionals. You can have an impact. We're scalable. Find me another place in this world that you can be scalable and yet have the activity that's going on here.
You're one of the few people, I think, that could come into this room and tell everyone that they need a spanking.
Well, because I get a spanking every day and I'm just passing it down.
I love it. That's great. That's awesome.
I say about peace and love. I'm a different generation. I've evolved.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
Work from home. I want you in this office.
Sometimes spankings are, never mind.
That's okay.
Let's transition to this Florida Today article.
Okay.
Spanking.
It kind of like ties in to what you were talking about as far as the perception of Brevard, and when these industry leaders are looking at this as a possible location, the precedent hasn't been set that it's possible. But interesting headline. I mean, a little bit dated, but Florida Today in 2016 said Brevard has more engineers per capita than Silicon Valley, but doesn't make any lists of great places for tech startups. Why not?
Okay.
And so, can you speak to that perception and how we can move that mechanism forward to bring
I think
more
there's
here?
a great opportunity there. We had Rise of the Rest come here, 5 years ago or something, because of the places they looked at. Rise of the Rest is the oh God, my mind just slipped my mind. He's the Steve Case, thank you, dear. Steve Case coming in looking to provide venture capital beyond the Silicon Valley and Northeast area. And he came, he was very intrigued. We are still a small town and we're not recognized. But here's what I think will help with that, is telling our story. Now, this county, and look, I'm not a branding person. I'm not a marketing person. If anything, no disrespect, I'm kind of like, well, marketing, whatever you need to do. Yeah. I mean, I'm not, it's not in me. I understand it plays a role, but I believe in it. Now, what are you saying?
No, it's just funny because that's what he does for a living.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I'm just confirming that it's black magic.
That's awesome.
Now I'm believing
It really is overrated.
I said I've
yeah.
evolved. Okay, I've evolved.
So talk your
Like you
piece,
evolved
Lynda.
with Care Bears and Little Ponies. You know, you've evolved. Anyway, I don't know why Little Ponies is in my head.
This is great.
Okay, here's what we're doing now. And again, this is in reflection of the EDC and our community being relevant. One of the challenges that we have in this community is we're a long, narrow county. Okay, we don't have a city center. Quite frankly, when I relocate somewhere else, I go, yay, Lynda got a company here. I go 10, 9, 8, and the call comes from somebody pissed off because that's no sweat, to say that it didn't go to their area. That doesn't happen as much because I'm very proactive in trying to mitigate that challenge. And it's really a challenge to us because we don't have a common core, a common center, or common theme. So years about 5, again, the EDC trying to be in front and be relative to the problems we had. And I didn't think we'd be able to do this, but I'm actually quite pleased that we've come so far. And Matt, you might have been involved in some of these discussions. So what we propose, now the EDC has a marketing budget like this, okay? But we have marketing budgets all over. What we don't have is a common brand, okay? And I will tell you, and I spend a lot of my, since we don't have money, what I do, but I have a card that's impressive. It says, President, CEO of the Economic Development Commission, Space Coast. And they think I have a lot of money. So I call these people, and they think I'm going to use their services. I don't even have money. You know, I'm eating free for here and I'm working. Okay, so what we do is what I did is, so I've talked to people who headed up the state of Israel, who headed Saatchi and Saatchi companies that are, they think I have money. Okay, so I call them up. I go, hey, thinking about your company. What would you do? Down. Anyway, and here's what they've told me. If you don't brand yourself, and I'm not a branding person, and branding is whatever. Branding is critical because it's going to tell our story of who we are to the world. And I will tell you the process that we went through. And it's not EDC's branding. I could do my own brand on my staff on a Friday afternoon. We've come up with something clever, very clever staff, very talented staff, and we use it on a little $5,000 mark, and no one will know the difference. This is a community brand that's never been done in this county. Because as a long, narrow county, we don't have a common core. So I told this, I said, look, we've got to have a common branding. Chambers of Commerce, cities, TDC, which I'm delighted in the work with the TDC. I'm so thrilled that they've embraced this branding initiative for a common brand. This is more than the EDC. What are we going to tell the world our story? And I told them this. I said, if we don't tell, because they told me this, if we don't brand ourselves, someone else will.
Yep.
And you know what? I told them, you wait. And I look, Orlando, I love Orlando, but Orlando's EDC and their chamber, this is not disrespectful to them, so don't send me the nasty emails. By the way, I have a thing on my Outlook called the mean stuff. Mean stuff. So, you know, bring it, slide it on in there, keep on working. So I don't want my mean box is full. Just don't do it. I'm just, you know what, hate me, love me, it's so much easier. Anyway, I'm sending this to my enemies. Okay, anyway. So I told them, I said, if we don't, someone will. Guess what the watermark of Orlando's EDC and Chamber, Orlando Economic Partnership is? It's a watermark, and what's in the middle? A launch vehicle. And beyond that is the sea. And I would do the exact same thing. Yeah. So we better control our message soon. So for the last 2 years, we have reached out and did a series of community conversations. Hundreds of them. We've talked to thousands of people, and we're a little EDC, and I got one person doing all this, and we're saying, what do you want? What's the best thing about that? And then let me tell you what it's leading to the ultimate plan, I believe. The branding is a means to that, and I really believe this. I don't know if I'll be able to pull off the other thing. And basically we said, what is it? What do we want the world to know us? Does Titusville embrace space? And branding, as I've learned, because I'm not a branding person, is not a logo and a tag.
Right.
It's the message that you tell. And we've done cards, we've had series of conversations. Right now we're in focus groups. We're hiring companies that know how to do the branding, us and the TDC. So we'll be unveiling it. You were one of the community conversations, weren't you?
No, but we do have an in-house branding.
Oh, you do?
Just saying.
Well,
just throwing it out there.
All I'm asking you is to add it on.
In-house branding, everybody.
Well, I'm going to sit down and talk to you about what we're doing. So, well, wait. But anyway, so my point is, it's the common theme, you know. And I've been watching nations, and I don't look at local communities and what they do, because we're almost a nation in itself. We're almost a city-state in many ways within Florida. And you look at what Ireland's done, and what it is, it's a combination between getting young people who want to come here on vacation and stay here, and getting the young person with the family that says, good, I'm being recruited all over, but I've heard about this, Space Coast area. And I'm not a Space Coast engineer. I'm just a cyber person or double E. Why would I go there? Because it's so much more than space.
Yep.
We'll see what comes up. I don't have a dog in the fight, how we as a community, but we've talked to thousands of people. We've done surveys. This, again, we're leading the charge, but we're looking to our brothers and sisters in this community, including all the philanthropic organizations and nonprofits, chambers of commerce, to help us define what that is. Not been done so far. I am thrilled that it hasn't been like, nah, what are you doing this for? Because again, Long Narrow County, I mean, look at the difference. We're Florida in a micro. The difference between Satellite Beach and Port St. John, the buying patterns, the voting patterns, the interests, and we want to be a collective. And I think it's hurt us. I really believe it's hurt us to not have a collective good.
No, there needs to be a collective good, because I'm a local. My wife's a local. Hey, baby, how you doing over there? She's over there. We're local. We raised our kids here and the whole bit. But if you live in Palm-Tucky, you don't care what's going on in Merritt Island. If you live in Merritt Island, you don't care what's going on in Melbourne Beach. But to have something where there's a common good, it's like, hey, you know what? When I describe my community, this is what my community is. And for everyone to be saying that same message, that's powerful.
And we can't say that. The community has to say that. That's why doing a common brand, it's not just you hire somebody and they come up with a logo with a manatee and a top hat on riding a rocket. I mean, I don't care what it is.
If I see a manatee with a top hat riding a rocket for your brand, I'm going to be very upset.
You'll have one of these. I'm going to have what you're having. I'm thinking one thing. No, but my point is I'm indifferent what it is. But here's what it is, because I cannot tell you how our lack of cohesiveness has hurt this. The lack of a common has hurt this county.
Yep.
Where's our big public works project? Are we doing all this economic development? And I mean this from my heart. Are we doing all this economic development so my ass could be kicked because we got money for Blue Origin? No, I'm not doing so much more than that. Because we could better, so your children can come back here and get a job. But we have parks. We deserve what other communities are doing and investing in their public works, we need to be doing too. So what I'm hoping is as the leaders, the business leaders, the interests, that want to take the time to talk about the common good, how we define ourselves, then what's the next step? What do we demand next?
Yep.
What's our challenges? Because we have a lot of challenges in this county. And it's not all rosy. I mean, the fact that we're bringing all these companies in is great. The wealth base will increase, but we need to take care of opportunity for the underserved, which our CPT program is it's designed to do that. We need to make sure it's ubiquitous through this county. We need to make sure that we benefit from the largesse that we're bringing here. And that means public works projects. So I'll tell you, that's the next step. Once we talk about what's our story, the next step I'm talking to you, what else do we need to do and how are we going to get there?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, man. It's just, Brandon, the way I view it is it's like a way to insulate yourself from competition, right? Like if you are authentically the only Space Coast or Austin, keep Austin weird.
Right.
There's only one Silicon Valley. That's the the exact train of thought to get people to think, we do business with them because they're the only one.
And what's happening here isn't happening anywhere else. And here's what I like about the place: capturing young professionals, singling out, it's tough. They can go anywhere they want. A young family, we'll get them. But we got to tell the story. They don't, you know how many times I've written the state of Florida on a cocktail napkin at an airport and put an X. Orlando, here we're here. They don't know. They think we're, do me a favor. When you go home next couple weeks, call a colleague, friend, cousin, grandma and say, where's the Space Coast? I really would like to know where they say we are. Because they might go, Space Coast, Florida? We know. Because we live, but don't underestimate. They don't know where we are, and we got to say we're not Orlando. Nothing wrong with Orlando. Like if I talk to a company and they want to be part of a big region, hey, we're part of Orlando. If they want to come in, I'll tell you, look, there's anything I can sell. And if they want to say, we don't want to be, we want to be a small town, I go, I understand. You don't want Cinderella's castle putting shadow on your pool. There's a natural green belt. We will never be there. Either way, I got it. Anyway, but it is, and that's, again, another, this place is so exceptional, but it's so difficult in many ways. And what comes with an opportunity, and that's why I am, the other day I had to give an award to the 4 and the 40 recipients. And I told them, and I was sincere, I go, the challenge is on you. We've taken it this far. I'm at the last, shadows of my career. But you have got to see what's going on in this county. You have got to make demands. We could be so much better in regards to what we offer our communities as you young people who are 4 under 40, and that award, they come on our board automatically. That's how much we believe in them. That I'm looking, you're the next generation. I'm seeing you out here. Be involved, and it'll come to you. And I'm not saying what to be involved in. Be involved somehow. Please take some time in your community. And this is an example of it here. You could be anywhere you want. You could be home watching Netflix. I want to be. No, just kidding.
No, it's cool. I get it. There's definitely some stuff in the Netflix I want to binge watch.
That's right.
No,
yeah.
I'm with you.
I got the Queen of Jerusalem on my last thing. That was really good. It's very interesting. The Queen of Jerusalem, they speak Hebrew in this thing, and I'm going off track, but I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's in Hebrew, and I don't speak Hebrew, but I listen to it. But then they say Spanish things in between it.
What?
Yeah, and apparently there's a sect of the Spaniards came in Jerusalem. It's just
interesting.
I don't speak Spanish, but I know enough the thing, and I'm like, well, that's very interesting. So I'm intrigued about it. But anyway, enough of my residual from Netflix today or something. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get goofy when I get tired.
No.
Connor, you have another question? Yeah. On the third day,
awesome,
I
Lynda.
swam with the whale. Maybe everybody has that crispy old aunt who's kind of leathery and she in the sun all the time, and you meet her. Hey, how's it going? On the third day, I swam with the whales, and you're like, I bet you did, Auntie. I didn't have one, but I met him, and I lived in Hong Kong, and I met a lot of the crispy overdone.
I'm just thinking about putting in the timestamps for this episode and how we're going to summarize this.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. Start with Little Pony. Colon.
Every 10 seconds, we're going to have a timestamp.
Yeah.
Junior high.
That's pretty awesome. Hey,
Yeah, if I'm going on, just tell me. I've had a long day.
No.
You either got me at the best time or the worst time for me. I'm better at mornings, but I'm like,
this is great.
okay.
Let's ask
the couch is cushy, and I'm,
Yeah. And the old fashions are very good.
Old fashioned.
Oh.
Okay.
Lynda,
Well, that's all the time we have
It's
for this evening.
Lynda, before we
You wouldn't make it my business, bro. I'll tell you one thing. They'd eat you alive. Go ahead.
before we cut to break, Lynda,
Yes, my dear.
what's kind of your highest aim with your occupation and life? What do you want to accomplish out of your work with the EDC?
Well, we have a project that we're working on. I don't mind sharing it. It's a little off market from the EDC. Can I share that after the break? Because it's very important. And it's not very sexy.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that.
So stick around.
Sort of like me, not very important and not very sexy.
One more old fashioned, everybody.
All right,
Go
okay.
ahead.
All right.
Thank you,
All
my
right.
dear.
Questions.
10 minutes.
Thank you. We're talking about,
great.
we had a break.
Yeah, we had a break.
Someone shared with me, sir, thank you for saying that. And he referenced, and I thought, God, that's a great point. And I thought about it, and I meant to talk about it. He goes, what about the Indian River Lagoon?
It'll be there in 100 years. It's fine.
Yeah, it will be.
kidding.
It will be 100 years. It might be this day. It might be in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Like, this is the Indian River Lagoon. You're like, really? It's like, what happened? Anyway, I'm sure that was great what they did. There's more. I like the bar frontage, but it was like. Anyway, so my point is this. I talked earlier about our lack of common good. There's probably two ubiquitous things that we can do in this county. One, ubiquity of the Indian River. There's no part in this county that doesn't touch the Indian River Lagoon or the Banana River. So that's the thing that we should focus on as being that common thread, or that, as I say kind of melodramatically, that wick in a candle. The second one, that I would love to see us do a north-south biking trail.
Ooh.
Because we're working east-west as a state, and I don't know anything about it. I don't bike, but I love it. It's going to Ticeville, and they're linking them up. Can you imagine, and I've already outreached to the Department of the Interior about looking into this. And believe me, if I can keep 100 people busy at my job, I have 10. So I got to, I have to be, resistant in my ambitions and ideas. But wouldn't it be really great if we did a biking trail north and south, maybe a heritage trail starting at what happened in Space Coast and bringing it down. Another thing that's ubiquitous. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know anything about, I'm talking really that I don't know what I'm talking about. But like, could we be the only biking trail that goes down the Indian River? Those are things that we deserve. I would love to see that, and don't give up on that. So let me talk about what the EDC is doing in regards to Indian River Lagoon and maybe a challenge that we have there and the next big project. This is not, we're not keeping under wraps. We're working on this. And again, yet as an economic development, you won't see any idiot EDC work on this project but me. But what happened is, come to our attention, and funny, it's the most fundamental, primitive things that could stop something. But it's come to our attention, and not only like a scary way, but I brought everybody in. I brought Space Force and NASA in, and DEP and St. John's Water Management District and Space Florida, and we brought them in, and we talked about the challenges that we have in infrastructure. Now think about it. Everything that's being done infrastructure-wise, really we hit the crest in like the 50s and the 60s, wastewater treatment, and then we went on, and now we're in the second golden age. The golden age, more jobs, more toilet flushing, if you will. So it came to our attention that we have a situation where KSC flows into Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. They have a wastewater treatment plant, okay? Like any wastewater treatment plant that's been around 50 years, you know, it has challenges. Does it meet the upcoming wastewater treatment standards? No disrespect to them. This is all going on, so I don't want to get calls from the Air Force. They're very good, and that working with them is brilliant. They get it, they understand. Also, the Air Force, as a policy from the Pentagon, says, you know what? The days of us taking on, and I'm paraphrasing, the days of us taking on libraries and ballparks, you know, we really need to worry about the Chinese. We really need to worry about taking the higher ground in space dominance, especially when it comes to our bases and mission force, okay? Maybe we shouldn't be doing this now, where maybe it made a sense in the 60s and 70s and 80s. So it is part of a policy that say, what can a community do to take assets off? So what can we do to take the asset of this wastewater treatment plant on Space Force that's going to be challenged and not at capacity, will soon be at capacity. So what if we did, and when I say we, I mean editorial we have a wastewater treatment plant that's on a vulnerable barrier island, taken off, including Sykes Creek, which is on the Merritt Island, to a mainland. Now, how goofy is that? Well, here's how it's not goofy. It's goofy, but it's not that goofy. Number one, Florida Department of Environmental Protection encourages moving wastewater treatment plants off barrier islands because it's not a good idea. We had 2 hurricanes in 1 month, okay? I know the show it stands for, but I'm not gonna say it, okay? Comes off, okay? They also like the idea of regional intergovernment wastewater treatment plants. So my point is this, and you're like, oh God, where's she going? Abraham Lincoln, shut up. My point is this, no one led that charge. And the reason no one led that charge, the EDC is, but no one led that charge is because, as I told my board, who's like, okay, Weatherman, what are you doing now? You did work for us, where are you taking us now? And I said this, because we have such a dynamic county. How many counties would have a federal installation, NASA, a Department of Defense installation, Air Force and Space Force, they're both there, it's not one, and you have 3 of the 4 branches in the Cape Canaveral area, counties and cities, and one with 5, 6, 8, 10 mile radius. That's us. And we, as an EDC, need to address it. Because if we don't address it, who is going to? No one will, because there's no leader. And since we're fish, not fowl, we're nobody, we can lead that. So we're in the process now. We just completed a conceptual study to look at bringing a wastewater treatment plant off the barrier islands. And it doesn't sound sexy. It doesn't talk about job creation. But here's what it will do. It will mitigate, sir, the nutrients that are going into the river. And this is how far I came, because that's one of the problems we have. I'm not a water expert. I work very closely with Dwayne DeFries, a National Estuary Program got here, was on the phone with him for an hour. He knows it, he gets it. He's in many ways my mentor. This is how far I've come. I thought nutrients a year ago was a good thing in the river. I mean, think about it. It's like, I'm like, nutrients, yay. It's like, no, it sounds good. I want nutrients.
Like
I want
B12
nutrients. So I've learned a lot.
Nutrients.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm like, well, I want nutrients, but the river doesn't. So I found out that's not a good thing. So part of the problem we have is these old wastewater treatment plants that were built in the 50s, because that's what we did. We didn't know what the rules were. No, it's nobody's to blame, but we're wiser now. And they're going into the river. And if we can mitigate the nutrients, that's not the only step, but that's one step to preserving this river. And this river is not just a lovely thing we can look at and be fun about, but it's also a quality of life economic development issue. How are you going to get people to want to relocate here if you have manatees that are parachute, if we don't have a nice river? And here's what I look to as a guide. Fun thing, France, okay?
Oui.
Yeah. Let me tell you why it could be a metaphor for us in many ways. Two things. Number one, before we get to the Seine, we're going to talk about France as a community, as a country. There was time in the 50s and the 60s, before the European Union. I know I'm being Abraham Lincoln, but trust me, hang in there with me and you'll get me. European Union, before we're talking about, Germany was fighting France. That wasn't that long ago. And people were talking about European Union. And then there was like the old guard that was saying, no, France is the Madonna of Europe. In a Catholic church, the Madonna is the central part. You put all your focus in. So we are the center of Europe. And the younger people, the young intellectuals, the young bucks, the young Turks, and I say the gender parity, were saying, no, we have got to see beyond our borders. And that's the analogy I use for Brevard County. We can't look the way we did 20 years ago and 25 years ago. And we can't just be the Madonna of South Brevard or Central Brevard. We've got to look collectively. Mm-hmm. Number one. Number two, what's the Seine doing? You can swim in the Seine for 100 years. There was an article, and I read about it. I was at the Paris Air Show, and I was reading articles about it, and I talked to a lot of people about wastewater technologies, again, because they think I have money and I don't, but don't send us out to Paris. What are they doing now? In the Olympics, they're going to swim in the Seine. I think I'm saying it properly, or I might look, okay? Seine, is that what you're saying? They haven't done that. I don't think they did it in the 1924 Olympics.
What's a Seine?
It's the river that goes through. Did you go to Paris on your honeymoon?
Never been to Paris. Oh. Sorry, honey. Yes. We got married in a Coral Springs courthouse when we were 18 and 19.
It sounds pretentious. So. I know Paris does. Look, I got mixed feelings.
I had a waterbed.
That's right.
You remember.
That's right. That's the close to the Seine you got, I guess, Sharky. This is insane. Anyway, my point is this. Look at what they did. And I asked them when they said they couldn't swim in this river, and they said they had like 4 species left. Look, we're not there yet, okay? They cleaned up the temps. This was a nasty place. They were throwing all kinds of whatever in that river for years. And it was just what we thought, sewage. And you know what they did? One of the first steps, because I talk to people, I'm Florida. I'm asking, and you're like, oh, this person from Florida. And I'm like, in fact, I had the French come in for a couple of companies, and they're like, you call this coffee? I'm like, well, it's a Mr. Coffee. I'm the coffee. And like, you push this thing, and it comes out the bottom. Ain't that great? It's like an American way. Anyway, you call this coffee? So I work a lot with the French. Anyway, but here's what, so I called them and said, what did you do? Like, did you find a magic bullet we talked about early? They go, no, we just mitigated the nasties going into the river. It wasn't that simple. They still a long way to go, but they're swimming there. They're going to have Olympics in the Seine. They haven't done it in 100 years, okay? Wow. Now the local people are saying, we will not want to swim in there. We're like, fine. You could pee in there the way you've been doing for 100 years, but then you've never been to France. Obviously, you guys never been to Paris. Anyway, so my point is this. The EDC is leading this effort, and you talk about the last big project. This is the last big project, not for the EDC, but probably for me to do. If we could pull this off, it would be the biggest thing the EDC does.
That was a mic drop.
Okay, that's what it was. And let me tell you something. The EDC's done a lot of big things. Biggest project in the history of the country at one time, this little EDC reversed the base realignment closure, which according to the Department of Defense is less than 10%. We won legal counsel, which is statute. We've got changed statutes to some degree. We've done big things for a small, modest EDC. This will be it, because we're addressing something that's probably the biggest challenge to us in future opportunities at the Cape, but also mitigating nutrients it will be an ecological project as much as environmental, and I'm committed to do this and seeing it through.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very well.
Don't know what I'm doing, but don't tell the others.
I, for one, have never been so interested in wastewater as I am right now. That's the first thing. And I don't,
Oh,
I
no,
don't,
me too.
Yeah. And
I'm
you're
telling
right.
you, it's like, again, that's why I told you it's so primitive. It's like,
But here's the thing. I'm just going to, I think everyone in the room would agree with me. If I start talking about wastewater, everyone's going to be like, where the hell is Matt going?
right.
Move on. Well, when you talk about wastewater, it is sexy. You turn the whole topic. I mean, everyone's like they're intently looking at it. So making wastewater sexy. I mean, you're going to do it.
Well,
and then if you, I'm just saying again, little branding plug. We can make wastewater sexy. I mean, Connor's brilliant. We can figure it out.
Well, let me tell you, I've been talking to my staff, and when you first, it was a very legitimate concern. Why is the EDC getting involved in this? Because think about it. What if a dog in the fight? Really? We're neither fish nor fowl. Whose people? You got a lot of people that this is their livelihood. This is what they do. They
100%.
oversee. And I'm like, we're going to put on a show. Like, who are you, knucklehead, coming in and saying you're doing this? You just have to be, and it's coming along. And I'm very proud of what we've done. We just finished the study on the conceptual alternatives. We did that. We got funding from the state. We haven't put a dime in. We can't. We don't have money. It's our sweat equity put into this. But I will tell you, I went to my staff. And they'll probably hate me for saying this, but I was trying to tell them, I go, help me. And they're so clever. I'm so blessed with having talented staff, because staff that don't stay. My staff calls me the what is it, the late Murphy Brown of secretaries?
Murphy Brown. Do you know who hold on,
That's
Connor.
right.
Do you know who Murphy Brown is?
Hang on, let me Google it.
Okay, that's right. The point is, she couldn't keep a secretary and kept leaving. So that's me. Anyway, so now the person who answers the phone, Carrie, Kathy's my assistant, wonderful person. So anyway, because I couldn't keep them, but because we have a lot going on and we have a little office. Anyway, so
She's a good gatekeeper, by the way.
She's 85.
Yeah. I
don't know if she
I
wants me to tell you
called,
that.
and I'm not a big deal, but sometimes I think I'm a big deal, and
No.
it's a habit, but I call, and she's like, and who are you?
Yeah. Oh no.
And why do you want to see her specifically? Tell me
swear,
now.
she would hate.
Like there's no getting through.
She worked
It's amazing.
in Saigon during a Tet Offense. I'm guaranteeing you she's ex-CIA. She will not say it, but I'm telling you she's ex-CIA.
That's
She
phenomenal.
got a guy. I was trying to talk, because we talked about water technologies and what we're doing, and so I'm really looking to what's being done in Israel. We reuse about 85% of our water. Not 85. We don't reuse. They reuse. They don't reuse 6%. But it's a city-state, so it's different. You can't compare. So I'm very interested. There's a guy I said, Kathy, I don't know what to do this. You get me a meeting with this person. And so I meet him. Finally, I'm in there. And I go, I don't do much international traveling. When I do, I pilot on top. So I meet with him. He goes, the Hebrew, Kathy, I was in a wedding. I had to walk out to take a call. She got a guy to walk out of a wedding to take that call. So yeah, she's doing her job.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's lovely. She's a lovely person. I adore her.
And kudos to you too. I'm hardcore pro-Israel. I mean, they're amazing.
If you see what they did in developing the country from nothing, and I'm ubiquitous in wanting to see all sides, but what they did to that country and what they do just for water technology, it's amazing. And they're really kind of an island into themselves. Their branding, if you look at their branding, it's like, I won't go into it, but look at their branding. It's sort of like we're unique to all the other countries.
No, and they are. But I mean, so I was out there, it's been years. I was out there in 2011. And it was the way that I went out there, I was blessed to go out there, but I had like 87 people with me that I had to manage. But it wasn't ideal. But,
there's a story there.
There's a whole thing there.
Yeah.
But there's fields of fruits and vegetables out in the middle of wasteland, out in the middle of desert. It is amazing when you see
irrigation.
It's nuts.
Now they don't call it toilet to tap now, because people don't like that. There's another term for it, but basically taking your toilet water and drinking it later. So anyway, and that's happening with filtration, saltwater extrusion. They are really, and space. We haven't begun to talk about what they do for space. It's such a cool country to do what they do, and we love all countries, but what's happening here. But I see that, and their tagline is, Innovation Nation, Startup Nation, or something like that.
Yep.
So it's exactly what you're trying to do and doing and active here is what they see as their tagline for their country. So,
Lynda, as a quick closing statement, can you summarize the 2,000 years of Israel, Palestine, and then we'll just go to questions. All right. Hey.
there's this guy called Moses. He had an idea. Okay, yes.
And then there's 2,000 years ago,
that's
Palestinian
right.
Jew died on the cross.
Yeah. And then
Hey guys, let's cut to questions.
Wow, you just went there.
I
You
thought-
just
I thought
dropped
it was
that one.
closing.
That's exactly.
I might do that closing easier than I can do my closing tonight.
Hey, you guys have heard Lynda. The budget's tight, so if you don't ask her questions now, she's going to charge you.
Hold on,
So-
I gotta ask my one question.
Okay, ask her the question.
Let me ask my one question. How could you forget the one question?
I know, man.
Oh,
I'm
no.
slacking.
It's our exclamation point.
Just rushing through the whole thing. Go ahead.
Jeez. I have one question,
Oh, yes, sir.
and then we'll open it up to
Okay,
everybody.
Matt.
Okay, it's
yes.
my special question. It's a two-part question. So, first part of the question is, what makes you tick? What is your internal compass? The thing that really just drives you? That's the first part. Second part is we have a lot of entrepreneurs that watch our podcast.
Okay.
I say that. I assume that because that's what it's for. But who knows?
Yeah.
But what advice would you have to people that are have an idea, that have a great idea, and just that want to go for it, but maybe they're kind of holding back, or what advice would you give to early entrepreneurs and that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a tough thing because you're so much smarter than I, and in many ways I'm in a conventional business. I put an entrepreneurial approach to it, and what makes me tick is in many ways I'm just sort of I'm work hard. That's what I do. I know it sounds obvious, but I do work hard. And I will tell you this, I believe in what I do. And the only analogy I can give in passion, the analogy I can give you is I've read an article once about Billy Graham. And he was talking about how he was the #1 salesman, probably 30s or whenever, for Fuller brushes in the state of North Carolina. And you could see him walking up, pretty nice looking man with nice blonde hair and stuff like that. And he sold 100, and they said, how did you do it? He goes, because I believed in the brushes. Mm-hmm. You've got to believe in what you do. It might not be, my career is not where I thought I'd be now, but everything I did, I believed in what I was doing, and not in a goofy, stupid sense. You got to be able to calibrate, but that will take you on the path. Work hard, have passion. I have never, with the exception of once, maybe twice in my business, hired somebody in my business from economic development. Go and hire him. I've seen him. I see him every day. I've seen him for 30 years. Don't need him. You give me someone who could think on their feet, who could take a lot of projects and have passion in what they do and kind of understand what we're doing every time. So I would say it would be work hard. No one's going to give you anything. They will never. I mean, even now I'm thinking, can somebody call me and help me with this program? They're not going. No one's going to help you. They might believe in you and pray for you and love you, but you got to do it on your own.
Yep.
You got to have passion. And you got to believe in it without being a maniac, because that's what I was. Okay, and I've learned, I've evolved. Okay, I don't know if that
Clearly.
helps. Believe in what you do,
You're
but it doesn't
amazing.
mean what you'll do. Like I was reading a biography of years and years and years ago about Charlie Chaplin, his autobiography. And here's what look, she's like, again, another story. I'm sorry.
No, stories are great.
Never
Stories are great.
Charlie Chaplin.
Producers.
She's like, Captain, get her another drink and get her out of here with the hook. I'll leave it with this. And I love biographies, and I would say read biographies. If they're good biographies, they'll be honest and truthful where they fell and where they stumbled, and everybody does. And when you do, just deal with it. I just all I can tell as an older person, the oldest probably person in this room, I'm sure, is, you're going to stumble, and just try not to take it personally. And don't, that's stupid, because I take it personally. Once somebody came up to me and they said, don't take it personally. Oh, really? This is my job. This is my soul I put this into. Don't you freaking tell me it's not personal.
Yeah.
But try not to let it eat you. Just tell me. But anyway, back to Charlie Chaplin. She goes, thank you. Charlie Chaplin, remember the little guy with the hat? Anyway, Charlie Chaplin saw, and it's my analogy is this. You're doing what you're doing, it may change or something else. He saw he was born in England, and I think before he came to the United States, or right when he came to the United States, he was a young man, I think in his early teens. He saw it like a soothsayer, of people who see the future. What do you call them? Mediums or something like that.
Mediums, yeah.
Now remember, he was in vaudeville, okay? There was maybe like thing that saw the people moving. I don't even think that was there then. And the medium says this: you will be successful in what you're doing Okay, it's vaudeville, entertainment, but it's not what we have now, or to some extent. So what I'm telling you, if what you're pursuing now with the same kind of passion, strategic thinking, strategic awareness, okay, you gotta say, oh, that's an enemy, that's not, maybe I need to change. You may not end up to where you thought you started, but there'll be a dotted line there. And you will do it, and if you have passion, you're already setting yourself from 95% of the workers in this world.
Awesome.
Thank you, dear.
Awesome. Very good.
Thanks, Lynda.
Thank you. Now
All
some
right.
drinks.
Now, yes. And now,
A few questions, y'all.
a few
Anybody?
questions.
I'll take some questions.
All right, we got over here in the back here. Steve. Steve, he's the owner of the famous local Crush 11. Everybody, please give it up for Steve.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's lovely. I hope you've enjoyed the development of downtown
Absolutely,
Melbourne.
absolutely. So
Because that's
I-
Embraer coming here with their clients buying corporate jets. It's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah, exactly. No,
Yes.
I know a couple guys over there, and so thank
Good.
you.
Yes.
I know you probably don't have any say in this, but just your involvement in the BrightLine and the potential stops in Brevard
Yeah,
County and how that
I'll
all
talk
works?
now, and I'm setting the EDC off, although that's hard to rip the mask off.
Lynda, can you pull that
Oh,
back
I'm
up?
sorry.
too? No, you're okay.
The question was about BrightLine. I will tell you, early on, I was like, oh, is that going to work? But it seems to catch momentum to putting money into it. Early on, when we, and I can make sure I don't get myself in trouble. Early on, when this BrightLine was coming, we didn't fight for a stop. That's my understanding. Okay, we didn't get involved in it because in EDC we had our hands full. Maybe in the future we have more leadership, but I'm careful where we fight our battles. I think there was almost sort of an indifference. Nobody said we should have a stop. Because it was early days. Now that BrightLine is there and you're being stopped at Suntree because they're doing everything, you'll see a stop. I would love to see a stop for me. And again, when we first discussed BrightLine early on, I don't think we had the economic development metamorphosis that we had back then. And I think I would love it. We're not involved. We're involved. We play a role on TPO. I have a staff who sits on the board. But in regards to BrightLine, if we had a stop now, and I've evolved. Even I'll be honest with you, early on when they were talking about it, I'm like, really? We're going to have people, that are going to be on, and you see the numbers now. I will tell you that we're very different than the Northeast. We're very different than Europe. And they wouldn't make this investment if they didn't see the numbers, and it's beyond my pay grade. I feel personally it has to be a pain enough to use a train in Florida, okay? So if it's painful enough for me, which it is now, to drive to maybe Cocoa or to Melbourne and park and get on a train, I'll take it every time. 10 years ago, I'll just take my car. Will tourists take it coming out of Orlando to the port? Maybe because they're accustomed to it, but they might like that convertible Camaro, So I'm a believer in it. I think there's a role that Brevard must have in this, where too much is happening compared to Volusia County. Excuse me, not Volusia County, but the Vero Beach area. And I think it will happen. I don't know if I answered your question, but I personally have evolved into understanding its importance, its need, and I hope we have a stop soon, if only to go to the airport.
If the people that make those decisions stop at Crush 11 and have a taste of their street corn, we will have a stop in Melbourne.
And their bacon old-fashioned
Yes,
thingy.
yeah.
Oh, I've been there once.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's like dessert and a drink all in one. It's like my mouth is like, whoa.
Yeah, it's
Is it breakfast? Is it a drink? I don't know.
right. You're having a little baby piggy and then having
Yes.
it's fantastic.
Exactly. That's a lovely, and again, I hope that you, and I'm sure you do, sir, because you see the numbers all the time, but what's happening in downtown Metaphor, why is that happening? Because Northrop Grumman has expanded tremendously. You've got Embraer that's having every corporate jet that's sold, and let me tell you something. Embraer was a 3-2-1 vote. It wouldn't have come here if we got that vote. When we were negotiating for Embraer, you knew who was calling them? And I knew it would happen. Jacksonville, because they were number 2. Jacksonville was like,
Jerks, all jerks.
but they're doing the job. I'm a jerk.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Hey, they don't want you. I want you. Bring it down.
Yeah.
I do the exact same thing, and I knew they were going to do it, and I told them. A 3-2 vote. That's how close we got not to getting Embraer. So now it's Embraer doing that. But also it was the corporate jail. So anybody who buys a corporate jet, they come down, they I don't know if it's Jackie Chan, if it's John Travolta, if it's
That's
Fortune
next
500
for Legacy
company.
Angel Network, corporate jet.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
no way
They're
to
going to
do
come
it.
there and have dinner, and that's why you've seen a change so dramatically in downtown Melbourne. Now I have Dassault coming down here, the French company, the MRO company, just located. You'll see more. It's and that's not even talking about the supply chain. So I love to point to downtown Melbourne as a metaphor of what we've become. But we also need more homeless people, and everything like that needs to be addressed. Every downtown has it. Everybody has that problem. We're not unique. We have to understand everybody has a problem. It's what you do about addressing that problem that sets us apart from a good community to a great community.
Yep. I think too that people forget. You just bring up the one thing. I'm not trying to get political, but I think people forget the human element of the homeless. They're still human beings, so there has to be a way to address that where you still see them as humans, love them as humans, and try and take care of them as humans, while also trying to address the other thing. It's a very tough. It's a very tough thing.
It is, and it's so easy to be like dismissive, and you're trying. Like I've worked since I was 14. Okay, I've worked all my 14, and I don't mean babysitting. Yeah. I mean getting Social Security.
Yep.
I'm a worker, so you're like, well, I worked, but you have to understand these are people with challenges and everything like that, and I don't want to get political either. And I have a mixed feeling too, and you see people wanting money. You're like, well, here's $10. Could you rake my yard? I mean, because really, I'm really tired. Here's $20, and I'm not gonna rake your yard.
Yeah. So, I have no pity for the guy that's holding the sign out front over here that says, my girlfriend wants a boob job and I want a new girlfriend. That guy needs to go away. Well, I don't know what's going on with that guy.
Did you get off that street soon?
No, it's right here. It's right here. No, it's
really? Well, see, that's
I'm like, what are you doing?
I'll tell you something. My mother, she's gone on to she's passed away, and she always said that my parents were very simple people, and she said, I'll talk about you ready for this? Talk about like guilt trip. She goes, and we were in San Francisco. I'd take her with her. She's a young girl. She just didn't graduate high school, and I would took her to San Francisco, and there's beggars, and she goes, you never know when that's Jesus. I'm like, get it out of my mind. I'm like, the skinny lady on the golly. I'm like, oh, mama, here, have $1. I'm haunted with. Thank you.
Yeah, a friend of mine told me once because he would every I-95 stop where you're coming off, there's someone there, but he always gave money out. I said, hey, you're always giving money out to the homeless. Why do you do that? And he goes, you don't know why they need it. He goes, it's not for me to know why they need it or what they're going to do with it. I'm giving it because I think it's a good thing to do, and I'm doing it for me, and it's not my responsibility what they do with that $2 I gave them.
Right. Somebody once told me it's a personal decision.
Yeah.
When you go to Mexico and China, it's a personal decision.
Yes.
You're not making it as a political decision. On the other hand, I will tell you that their companies call me all the time looking for workers. Now, I'm not saying, double E's. I'm talking about somebody and so there are jobs out there. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you need to make sure if you have a job, how do you get your job? We have public transit. It's very good. It's not, ubiquitous through the county. We're a long, narrow county. There's not like they can jump on Savannah. If they can't, I'm sure I'll get a call from the TPO and I'll send it out. But they talk about affordable housing, and the person said this, it's not just a person has a place to live in, they need a network system. And I'm still a sucker. I still want to help. If we're a good, wealthy community, we should do something. But I'll leave it to the people that know better than I.
It's not just a behavior issue, though. It's not even like it's even a job issue. There's mental health issues. There's all these other things that come on with it. You can give them a great job and try and take them off the street. But if you don't resolve the internal things that are going on within them, then it's a holistic approach that we don't have the answer to yet.
And you might want to do? You might want to have a few people come in to address that problem so we see the whole of it. Because it's so easy for us as we drive by and here's $1 or whatever. It's something, but what sets, we're an exceptional community. Yeah. There's a loving, I'll tell you really quick, I was a foster mother for a few years, and it was a wonderful thing and very, very sad in many ways. And I will tell you as a state, with the guardian ad litems, every child would, and I'm not getting into politics because they're very political, but I will tell you this is such a well-meaning community and a well-meaning state that I believe every child would be adopted if we allowed the circumstance, and they're starting to change, of being able to adopt foster children. We make it so hard. Yep. I think it's changing. I hear it is. I couldn't do it. It broke your heart too much. Yep. But we're such a lovely community, and we need to let the good, and I'm like, I don't mean to be like this, but homeless people, let's start with something nice. Yep. Let's start something we all can agree on. Yep. The manatee. Who wants a club man? let's find one thing, because this is a very polarizing community in a polarizing
Other than
nation.
Connor, I don't think anyone in here wants to club a manatee.
I know.
It's the rest of us.
Because it looks like a little pony without hair.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Connor.
One more
Giving his
question,
little
everybody.
Gary over here.
Go ahead, Pete.
Well, just a comment, there's a lot of people in this room that have supported New Life Mission, formerly known as Brevard Rescue Mission. Doesn't solve the whole problem,
Right.
but a very responsible
Yep.
approach.
And it's so-
Homeless women with children.
It is, and I wish I knew more about what's going on. I work with a little bit with Neighborhood Up and stuff like that. And I worked with Neighborhood Up because we did a training program. I won't go into it tonight, it's too much to go into. But understanding, trying to find jobs for the underserved. We work with Goodwill and stuff like that. So, we really have some good and wonderful, and that, when I talk to a company, I want to tell them those stories. I need to hear those stories. Because when they sit down, they think about the people that they're hiring. They're just like you out here in the audience tonight. And again, as much as I want to spank you because you don't want to come on work on time, you gotta win, we're home, whatever I want to say. I've never, sorry, I'm evolving. I've never seen a more involved, caring generation of people. You really want to change the world, and I don't mean in a like superficial way. You want to get involved, so I honor you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Lynda, thank you. The future's bright.
We have another question.
One more. Let's go.
Howdy. Thank you. As a recent transplant here, wanted to kind of go back almost to the beginning of looking forward to those next 10, 20 years. What can some of this inbound, interest do? What are some of the gaps we can fill to make this that community that can really compete, with the others that are starting to come up now?
That's a good question, dear. And I think we have a gap to fill. And again, I only see it from a certain perspective. There's so many people you need to get on this show to talk about it because there's so many opportunities. But I would see us, and let me think how I would address this. The gaps to fill, it depends. Gaps is workforce gaps. Gaps is offering assets that we don't have. I'm not going to get into discussions that we've had, and because I know this gentleman, I'm very excited about what he's doing, but it gets at me into another realm I don't want to get involved into right now. But the gaps are this. We need to address workforce. Okay, there's millions of dollars in this county. We were involved in workforce 10 years ago when we were talking about certifications were a way to address the workforce issue, and no one's talking about us. Remember that song, We Were Country Before Country Was Cool? That was the EDC. And I took it on the chin a few times, but that's okay, it's evolved. Now, as a state, we're recognizing it and putting money into it. Let's hope it all settles out. I think the other gap, too, is what I talked about earlier, is the public works that we have here. What sets us apart? What sets us apart right now is that we're a launch site. We have space coming in here. We have companies that are being attracted.
Legacy Angel Network.
Right, and there you go, Legacy Angel Network, which we hope to be part of this. They make a mean old fashioned. Anyway, here's what I used to be a teacher years ago. And I thought I'm being a teacher. And the person said this, here's what you need to do. You need to look at who you liked as your best teacher and who was your worst teacher as a pupil, and tell them what the difference is. So what I would ask of this community, so I'm pushing it back on you guys, what do you see as the aspirational community we want to be? And who do we don't want to be? And tell me what the difference is.
Yeah,
okay?
Strong. That's good. That's very, very good.
Thank you.
Lynda, one last thing.
I thought you did one last thing already.
It's not a question.
It's another question.
It's a statement.
Okay.
Your shoe game is on. Your shoe game is solid.
Let me tell you something. I get more. Oh, don't do that shit.
Let's go.
No, it's really funny. It's funny because I'm not cool, okay? But I see the crowd. I'm such a
we would disagree.
Poindexter
You're pretty cool.
with this group. I saw these shoes, and I bought 2 pairs actually. And I am telling you, I walked down DC, walking down, going to my meetings. And guy goes, cool shoes. I'm like, thank you. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. I think they can invest in Alpha. No, don't. I'm not going to tell you the size or the name because you're going to find them. But thank you very much. I love the gum sole. They're kind of, thank you, dear.
No, thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
I should have bought 10 of these. Of course, they cost more than most of my shoes, but that's okay. They're not that much, but thank you.
Lynda Weatherman, everybody.
Lynda Weatherman, yep.
Thank you.
Good night.